Thank you. Welcome back, commissioners. It is January 10th, 2024. Happy New Year to each of you. It's been a while since we've convened. And so if we could get a motion to start this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Dr. Ross, second by Kim Franks. The meeting is called to order. So just to go over the agenda that I sent, we have some things to, a couple things to discuss. One is just we're going to review our community agreements. We sent a letter to the mayor last year, a couple weeks ago, and we have received a response. So we're going to go over that. We have some planning for 2024, the public meetings, so January, February, and March. So we need to spend some time on that, and then some working group updates and planning. And then any other brain fog, any other announcements and acknowledgements that we may need to go over and discuss. We'll make some time for that before we head out. And just because it's been a while, I think it would be, should we start with just some introductions to the people who are watching? I'm Kayla Reed, Chair of the Reparations Commission. I'll pass it to Dr. Ross.
I'm Dr. Will Ross, Vice Chair of the Commission. I'm a faculty and Associate Dean at Washington University Medical School. And Kim.
Kim Franks, member at large on the Reparations Commission and local business owner and attorney.
Yep, Will.
Will Foster, serve as a local resident of St. Louis and member of the Reparations Commission.
I'm David Cunningham. I'm a professor and chair of sociology at WashU.
We also have Vernon. Could you introduce yourself?
Good evening. My name is Vernon Mitchell Jr. I am the interim director for the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency for the city of St. Louis, but I also work as a liaison between the city and the Reparations Commission.
Great. Thank you for that. So I have on the agenda just to review our community agreements. Just as a reminder, what we proposed is that we will always be committed to listening to the community fully, not being reactive. We will accept that we will not be able to fully realize every vision of reparations. We commit to learning out loud and providing space. We will be fully present during our meetings. We will commit to struggling through conversation in a principled manner and assuming the room can handle it. We will honor intent but own impact, and we will commit to debriefing at the top of each meeting unless we vote to convene sooner. We will be solution-oriented as a team. We will engage the public with a united voice, and we will honor the process and try not to solve in real time. So those are the agreements that we made in 2023. It is 2024, so just wanted to make sure that those still feel right to the commissioner if there's any edits or additions that we should make to our community agreements.
No.
I still agree with those.
Right. Okay. So next on the agenda, we have just an update on the letter. So on November 30th, 2023, Dr. Ross and I signed a letter and sent it to Mayor Jones. The letter really was a collaborative effort across the entire commission. So thank you to everyone who made edits and read it, gave feedback. And essentially in the letter, we, gave an update that we've engaged over 1,000 residents through our public meetings so far, that are both our in-person meetings that we hold in sort of town hall format, and our monthly, what we call sort of planning meetings, which are held via Zoom. We've been very committed to having location diversity. So we've been in North City, we've been in South City, we've been in Midtown, and we focused our meetings on bringing in experts to discuss the history and impact of policies on things like public health, housing, education, the criminal legal system. And we've really done the work of prioritizing public engagement, making space at each of our meetings to hear from residents about both their responses to the experts and the presentations, but also their questions and visions for the Reparations Commission. Also in the letter, what we asked for was to be granted an additional 6 months to more meaningfully engage the public and produce the final report. And we also requested that the city allocate resources to support the creation of the final report and recommendations. And so, yeah, that comes from both feedback directly from the public, feedback from commission members. And so we sent that letter over to Mayor Jones and Chief of Staff Jared Boyd on November 30th. And we have received a response. And so I'm going to pass it to Vernon to just go over the response and see if any members of the commission have any questions.
Thanks, Kayla. This is very important to Mayor Jones, this process, the formation of this commission. And she agreed with the providing an extension. And so she's done that through the Chief of Staff, Jared Boyd, sent a letter to the executive board about the extension. It will allow, I think, time for the commission to really do some thorough and thoughtful work, and for the city to be able to support that work as needed. Part of that will also come through the support of Mr. Jonathan Strong, who is now the current Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer. He'll be working with me. I'll still be in my liaison capacity, but and I should say, Mayor Jones will also be presenting to the commission next month. Hopefully I didn't preempt Kayla too much with that. For the February meeting, I think that she'll also be presenting with Neil Richardson, who is the president of or executive director for the St. Louis Development Corporation, to talk about the Economic Justice Action Plan. So I think this is really good news that the mayor is supporting the extension. We don't have to cram everything together hastily. Time can be taken and be very methodical, very intentional about the research, about the recommendations that will be presented to the city on behalf of the commission. And I think just another way that this administration is supporting this very important work.
And so by that extension, it was 6 months from our initial March deadline, or which gets us into November.
Yes,
September.
September.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
September.
so it gives us until September 9th, which I think we came on March 9th, so it'll give us
That's good.
September 9th. Any questions about either the letter or the response from the administration?
Yeah, so there were two parts to the request. There were extension and funding. What's the response to the funding request?
Right now, the city does not have a funding source per se. I think funding will have to come about through some collaborations with some of the anchoring institutions around the city, around the region, in that way, to help in that effort. But no, there's no identified like budget.
That was a major issue here. We're talking now about compiling all the data, the comments, putting those in, taking the recordings and reviewing those. I know we had this response from University of Missouri St. Louis, and we need to get some feedback on that. But I mean, that's an effort that's going to have cost, and so I think it's not adequate to say we're going to move ahead without having a budget. And this is a budget just for operations. Vernon, I don't think this is something that we would approach anchor institutions. I mean, this is a request. This is should be coming from the mayor, who stated that she's supporting this. And so I had every expectation that we would be presented with a budget. So I'm a little disappointed that that's not happening.
This is inequity on top of inequity. So this is like reparations is to like resolve past inequities. So like is there no source, or that the mayor is unwilling to allocate any funds, like discretionary funds, also compelling resources in the community? I mean, we got a police chief that's partially funded by a private source, so there's compelling resources in doing work to activate, to ensure that this is funded. I'm reading, I just got finished reading an article an hour ago about the San Francisco Reparations Commission. They had a $4 million budget, and they're spiraling because that budget got cut. They had a $4 million budget. $4 million. They had a whole entire office. Now, we're not San Francisco. I don't have the tax revenue of San Francisco.
Well, that was for California, not just San Francisco.
I thought it was San Francisco.
I'm pretty sure that was California, but I could be mistaken. I don't have
it was for California.
It says future African American reparations in San Francisco. Yeah. But either way, yeah, I don't see how we can function.
So the onus is on us to draft a budget, to go through and look at the additional work we need to be doing, the writing, the bringing in additional experts to assist in the writing. We can't ask them to do all this gratis. Reviewing videotapes. So I think that before we go back to the mayor, we have to draft our own budget, basically outlining what we anticipate we'll need between now and September. And that needs to then be re-presented to the mayor.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I'm definitely on the team of working to draft what this will look like at cost. We've been fortunate to have experts who have, use their own resources to travel to us, and been a part of and having them in on the commission. But I also think, with the sort of, I really have COVID fog, I apologize, but with the sort of expectation of both a written report and an engagement strategy, those things do cost. And I think what we've heard the last few public meetings, and this is to the general public, not just to you, Vernon, because you've been at these meetings, right, is that there is a frustration from the public around how they're hearing about it. And so even placing ads in the paper about our future schedules, or radio ads and social media ads, or whatever to expand our reach, we don't have we don't have the means to do that. And we've been, taking care of costs associated with venue bookings, flyer creations, all of that sort of thing through the contributions of the commission members and our individual institutions support. And so I do think it's worth figuring out a 2.0 discussion on that and what that plan can look like. Just because a written report is going to be expensive. I mean, it's going to accrue some cost. And so I just want to make sure that we have something to offer those who are stepping into the space. And I do think we also have like a lot of volunteers and a lot of people who are showing up and giving in-kind contributions to the space. But I just think for an expanded reach, which is really the impetus for the letter itself, was that we were hearing directly from the community that our best efforts were still not reaching the masses in order to make this a robust process. And I think the 6 additional months that we have now, we really want to get that part right.
I think that it is great to be thinking about it in that way. I think submitting a budget about what's needed would be really good to help reaffirm this effort. The mayor did not say that at this time there's no budget. I'll say it that way. I'm not saying that the administration is not above finding discretionary funds to support what's needed, but right now there's nothing there. That was as of the letter being sent, that there was no budget there. So I think as Dr. Ross suggested, I think that would be a great way to move forward and then to have another meeting with administration.
What's I'm trying to recall the calendar for the city budget. Doesn't that process begin? Does that process begin in March or April?
February, technically, the department starts to review their last year's budget, but new budget comes into effect July 1, 2024. So we'll still be under the commission mandate for about a quarter into the new fiscal year.
So I guess we have to, since we've all agreed on this, the issue is that we have to sit down and draft that budget. I don't mind taking a stab at it. There are a lot of unknowns still, but I think we can at least put the skeleton on that. So I'll think about what would be requested, what needs to be requested, what we'll need in terms of actually drafting. I don't think it would be appropriate to cover anybody retroactively for travel, but we can certainly think about who would we need to bring in going forward.
Right.
So I think the time is of the essence. So I'm more than happy to try that budget attempt and then pass it over to you, Kayla.
Sorry, the city budget process already started. Budgets will be submitted February through March. People are texting. Shout out to those watching. So yeah, so I think now is a really important time to think about drafting that budget and submitting it to the administration. Especially since we have an additional 6 months beyond March to continue the work. Any other thoughts or questions about the letter or the response or the budget?
Okay. I think we're all on board here.
Great. So Dr. Ross, you'll lead on drafting a budget, and I will support. And then, yeah, and all of us have already agreed to be a part of the extended time frame. So the commission will go through mid-September 2024 toward the mandates of Executive Order 75. Great. So to move us further down in the agenda, we needed to do some planning for 2024. So there are a couple discussions that we need to have around that. One is the current executive order requires us to have a public meeting monthly, and we have January, February, and March through the original executive order. Then we have the 6 months additional that have now been approved by Mayor Jones. And so we need to plan, we need to definitely plan January through March and then have a conversation about March through September. And so wanted to make some space to go through that. So for January, we know that the date is January 31st, 2024, and the time, that's a Wednesday, and the time frame will be 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. One of the things we wanted to talk to the executive committee, wanted to talk to the larger commission around, was moving the public sort of town hall in-person meetings to Wednesdays so that they could be accommodating for the entire commission versus alternating Wednesday, Saturday that we did in 2024. So wanted to first get thoughts on that. If folks are fine with that pivot or have questions or pushback on that.
I think that's fine. I think we need some consistency.
Perfect.
Great. Any other thoughts?
I'm fine.
Okay. So being that January 31st falls on a Wednesday, and that puts us sort of at the last week, wanted to also ask about February dates. So we're looking at Wednesdays in February. Typically, we either do the third Wednesday, which puts us at February 21st. Because we did the fourth Wednesday in January, also February 28th is on the table. Wanted to weigh which date was better for members.
I think we stay with the monthly at the end of the month, and then we reserve the time 2 weeks prior to that to have our working group meetings.
Okay, any blocks on February 28th? Okay,
I'm free and don't have any conflicts.
great. And then by that math, that would create March 27th as the March date. That
Yeah, again, I agree that we continue the same timetable, even though I'll be out of the country during that time. I still think the meeting should go on.
okay. Any other thoughts? Or availability that works for everyone else?
I should be good.
Okay. So we have January 31st, 2024, February 28th, 2024, March 27th, 2024, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. for our next 3 in-person meetings. As far as locations go, so Delisha made a proposal to Dr. Ross and I that it may be strategic to move our meetings to City Hall, in-person meetings to City Hall versus the sort of like monthly shuffle that we've been doing in 2023 of moving the meeting to different locations. And so having these next 3 meetings at City Hall, likely in the Kennedy room if we can get approval, Vernon, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I've reached out to Clerk Terry Kennedy about the process for reserving the Kennedy hearing room, which I think would be a great place for the commission to meet. And so I'm just waiting to hear back from him. I think, yeah, that's it right now. And I included the executive committee in that correspondence.
Yeah, and I also spoke with Jay Nelson, who is the chief of staff to the president of the Board of Aldermen. And so my next step is to send him the 3 days that we just confirmed, to also be helping to secure a location in City Hall. Any thoughts or responses to that?
Yeah, my one concern about City Hall is parking. It comes with parking costs. Even the day that we all were sworn in, at 5 o'clock, that parking lot switches to event parking and the parking is $20. Downtown parking at a meter carries a flat fee. And so it kind of creates a cost barrier for those who are driving in. And so that I just like for us to take that into consideration, although I know that there's other conveniences with that being, you know, the official business, but official space for public business, just the parking barrier.
I agree with that. I raised that concern myself. And so I started thinking about other possible venues downtown. And you come across, they have the same issues of parking. I mean, I first thought about the library, which would be a really great place to be. But you know, same thing. I mean, in fact, there's even less parking there. So it's just something to discuss whether or not the mayor's office is willing to subsidize the parking for everyone who attends the Reparations Commission.
I'll look into that personally and get back to the commission before the end of the week.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's an important point to raise, and I think that is, you know, likely an issue just in the central corridor period. We have privatized parking and made it cost in those areas. And yeah, I think we can figure out parking. We can work with city officials to figure out parking.
Is it difficult to go back to, let's say, like Harris Stowe and stick with that as a location?
I don't think it's difficult. I think, yeah, I don't think it is necessarily difficult. I think availability with short notice is hard. So what we ran into last year with Harris Stowe was just availability, with trying to schedule certain things. Obviously, Saturdays are different, you know, than Wednesday. But I think we definitely need a location for January 31st. And we know that February, and I would say most commissions are having their meetings at City Hall. The Reparations Commission took a separate approach or a different approach to that. And one of the things that we saw as a benefit was with the location diversity, we were able to engage different sectors of the community. But what we also saw when we were moving the meetings around was that we were really late to amplify the meeting and publicize the meeting. And then that was causing people to not be able to come. So I think if we have a consistent, what I vote for above any location is consistency in location. I think we should have one place that we are able to go in 2024 where it's just the same place. And so folks aren't trying to figure out where we're going to be.
Yeah, that's absolutely critical.
Go ahead, Vernon.
The other thing to consider, and I'm looking at it now, is the blue schedule. they don't have a home game on the 31st. They have one on the 30th. So that bodes well in the commission's favor in terms of
The lot.
the lot, because otherwise it's going to be even more difficult if there is a home game for the Blues or any other type of event happening at the Enterprise Center. But just something to think about.
So I'm thinking about parking. And the one place I know that has abundant parking, that's, pretty much right in the middle of the region is Forest Park Community College. Yeah, I'm sure most of us have seen it. They have a very large lot. And we're talking about after hours, and so most of the students would not be there. There are bus lines and everything else, so I think that should be considered.
Yeah, I think we can look into a couple spots. I hear the questions around it. The last point that I will put as a pro for City Hall is that will be where the elected officials work. It might make it easier to engage them and have points of connection with community members if we're sort of in the place of governance. But I hear the parking, and I think we have to talk to a combination of people, the mayor's office, the treasurer's office around parking, et cetera. So I think that may take some arm work, but I think it's worth a shot. That way we're in the place where the, lawmaking is happening locally. But I also agree that if we're going to go to a different place, we need to make a decision relatively quickly and be able to secure that space for months to come.
So you mentioned that other commissions meet at City Hall. How many people are on that commission, and how many guests are usually there?
Yeah, so the one that comes to mind most is the Charter Commission right now. The Charter Commission is meeting at City Hall. The public engages at different scales. I don't have like the number of attendees off the top of my head, but I know the Kennedy Room is it can seat I think it can seat more than 100 folks, just from my experience in legislative hearing sessions. And right now, because the full chamber of the Board of Aldermen is under construction, the BOA is actually meeting. They're having their full meetings in the Kennedy Room, and so it can hold a large audience. It's also, City Hall makes it easy for STL TV. We won't have as many technical difficulties or anything like that because they're on home turf. But again, I'm not wedded to it. I just wanted to it was proposed to Dr. Ross and I from Delishe, and we've started the process of just checking to see if it's possible. I hear the concern about parking and the proposal to check in with Harris Stowe and St. Louis Community College. And we can move on all cylinders around that, but we got 21 days before the next public meeting, and so just want to make sure we give people, a couple weeks of advertising, so that we can have good turnout at the first meeting of 2024.
Okay, I have another thought, and that is St. Louis Public School Board. There's a parking garage adjacent to that. I go to meetings periodically, public meetings, and they don't charge to those meetings. They go in and out fairly freely in the parking garage. Of course, there are ample room inside that building for public meetings. They host public meetings, right? They're the school board. So that should be a consideration also.
Okay.
I really like the suggestion of Forest Park. in terms of location. And I think existentially it feels like a safe space for community. And yeah, you know, that I've been down at City Hall, maybe been in that boardroom, and if we get lots of engagement, as I hope we will, that space overflows. It gets really jam packed, and so definitely we've had some technical issues for setup. Definitely, we want our elected officials to come. There's just 12 elected officials, and they're usually not at City Hall in the evening. And I think they'll meet us where we are. And I think our commission is a little bit different in terms of what our goals are in terms of community engagement. So I just would like to, with the limited time we have, try to find a location that is going to be central for the community. And also provide us the room and the access to parking that we need. I think City Hall is going to have some limitations and unexpected things that happen. That parking lot situation is contractual, so they're not going to be able to waive parking for us if they have a contract with Enterprise. So
Yeah, okay. Yeah, then I'd also add, how did folks feel about the meeting? I was not there, but at Deaconess, was that enough space?
Mhm.
Parking?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, because I just, and can we split the water? Do people have points of contact at Harris Stowe, St. Louis Community College, or the school board? I can certainly check, I can certainly run
Yes.
down the City Hall piece and Deaconess, but would need some support with points of contacts at the other spots.
So this is where this should not fall to the commission to do that level of work, frankly. That's the whole point of having staff support. We're supposed to get together and really think extensively about what's being proposed. We shouldn't be relegated to making phone calls for deciding where we're going to hold the visits. That should be beyond the purview of the commission. Now, we can do that, but I'm saying that is not customarily what the commission should do. Any commission should be doing. Just a point. Just a point.
If I could, Dr. Ross, I appreciate the candor. Let me deal with the parking situation, and my team will reach out to the places that have been identified. I was trying to wait before I said anything else before you guys came up, because we can talk about some of this offline. But what were the dates again? January 31st, and February was what?
28th and then March 27th.
And then that was Harris Stowe, City Hall, Deaconess, and Forest Park.
Yeah.
Those are
And the
suggestions.
school board.
Oh, and school board too. I'm sorry. I have that. And we'll follow up by Friday with an update about which places are open and parking in those each of those places, and you can decide for yourselves as a commission where you want to meet.
Thank you, Brandon. Okay, great. So, this was, yes. So we have dates, we have some potential locations. Vernon's gonna run those down this week and get back to us with a list to choose from. I think we really want to give ourselves mid next week at the latest to make a decision on where the meeting on the 31st is going to be. Speaking of the meeting on the 31st, we know that for February, Mayor Jones is going to be joining the commission with Neil Richardson around the presentation of the Economic Justice Action Plan
We do know that for the 31st, that is confirmed.
for February's meeting, the 28th.
Okay, I want to make sure everything's clarified for February. Okay,
Yeah, February meeting. And I will send the dates back to them to say that this is the time, this is the date and time that we've chosen. But the response from Jared said that she'll join us at the February meeting. So I'm assuming she'll adjust her schedule as needed to attend the meeting since we didn't have a date confirmed yet.
Right.
So we need to think through agendas for January and March. Most importantly, January right now. If we want to have an invited speaker, or if we want to just provide what shape we want that meeting to take.
I think the speakers have been powerful, effective. They've engaged the audience. They've gotten the audience to think more broadly. So I think it's prudent to have speakers who are available. And I think that we should rely on the local talent we have here. I mean, it's because we thought about having Colin Gordon, and I think he should still be on the list. But apart from that, I think we should just try to rely on some of the local expertise we have here.
Okay. Yeah, so any particular topics that we haven't covered that we want to be covered in January's meeting? If we didn't have a speaker, knowing that we are we're up against the clock, I was going to suggest that the report working group actually spend some time explaining our sort of theory, our sort of thinking around the shape of the report. But that is secondary to a speaker. Knowing that we haven't met in a while, the report working group.
I think that makes sense. That we make this next meeting really kind of reviewing operations, giving the audit, the public a sense of how we've structured the working groups and what the timeline is. That was a big issue, as you know, the last meeting.
Right.
So I think that we should provide that clarity, and that may preclude having a speaker at this January meeting. I think that's reasonable.
I would agree with that as well in terms of the import of it. And just to clarify in terms of the structure of the meeting, where we've obviously had speakers at our other meetings, but we were trying to devote the bulk of the time to public testimony in an open way. Are we continuing with the public testimony segment, or would it be more we would present like the contours of the report as we see it, and then people would ask questions and react to that? Would that be the whole of the meeting as a topic, or will we also have public testimony on top? I'm just trying to figure out the scope of our time and how we're using it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the public still has things to say, right? And so I don't want to close off public comment. I really do think that part of January, February, and March, as we sort of end this first year and then have the additional 6 months, we need to still be thinking about public testimony as a core part of the public meetings that we're having. And then the additional 6 months can have a different shape to them than the first year did. But yeah, I think that people still have questions, and I want them to be able to ask questions. And this is just my perspective. I want them to be able to ask questions, and sometimes they may have not questions but reactions that we want to capture. So I think it would still take shape to have public meeting, but the 20-minute presentation this time can be really focused on the working groups, the function of the working groups, and then the sort of shape that especially the report working group has, and we can meet before the 31st to sort of put together the presentation on the areas that we've decided thus far are going to be in the report, and then even some of the invited writers that we're thinking through, et cetera. So we can, and I think it starts the year off by saying, like, last year we really were doing a lot of listening. This year we're going to be doing a lot of execution on what we heard as a recommendation to January's agenda.
Yes, and to add, I think the public testimonies help fuel the community engagement working group. So as we receive new responses, new reactions, we can kind of work with them on that. So
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. So January, and I can take lead on this since since the report working group, the other two members have presented. I can take lead on presenting January 31st around the sort of reparations internal structure, and then the report shape that we want to go through, and some of the things that we want to focus in on the report. And then February we'll have sorry, I'm trying to take notes and talk. Mayor Jones. And then in March, it could be that we ask Colin Gordon then. If we ask him now about that date, that could be something that's enough, that's time to really see if he can join us in March. Any thoughts about that?
That also sounds great.
Not specifically to Colin Gordon, but just, I was sitting up here, like I was just kind of going through all of the things that we covered. What if we take some time for like a legacy capture of grassroots work in St. Louis involving reparations, like historic work? So like invite some folks. So we mark some time on the agenda, and we invite activists to give presentations of what has been done so far.
In January or in one of the future meetings?
January or February, but like before we put the cap on that public input. Because there's a lot of people that I've heard a lot of that from the community, where people are like, yeah, I've been doing this, but like give people a time. Let's get that.
Yeah, so part of the mandate of the community engagement group is to do that process through interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So they are supposed to be capturing that history so that the report also engages not only like, for example, if we spend time talking about economic justice in the report, we've also wanted to spend time talking about some of the like narrative work and resistance work and organizing efforts that have gone into addressing the material need of our people in those issue areas. And so that is what the community engagement group is supposed to be working on, while the report working group is sort of working on the like hard history and recommendations part. But I'm not at all opposed to that happening in real space and time inside the meetings. I would ask, who, and then who hasn't sort of shown up and given some testimony to it that we would want to invite into those conversations and make space for? Do we want to sort of do this as like a panel? Like what's your thinking about bringing that out of the working group into the public meeting?
My thought would be we would have our time that we usually allow for speakers, maybe allocate a little bit more time, and then just do an open call, and each presenter would have a certain allocation of time. So
yeah, I like the thought of I like that thought. I just think that we that has to be a little bit more structured, because there are a lot of people who have a lot to say, and we have limited time, and so I don't want us to end up having an open forum with lots of voices that are cross talking. So it has to be a little bit more structured.
Yeah, so in this scenario, it would be like you have 5 minutes.
Got it. Okay.
Right, 5 minutes. We like our allocation is 30. Let's say our allocation is 30 minutes, right? So then that would be in the time is 5. That's 6 people.
I guarantee you that won't happen. I guarantee you that no one is going to stop talking after 5 minutes if given that forum. 100% sure of that.
And it may be that we need like 3 people who give 10 minutes versus 5 minutes.
That is more practical.
Yeah. And I think there's like I have an interesting question about who, and I think the March meeting is still like has the I think it would be really tight for us to try to do it in January, just with us only having like 20 days. But I would love to think about how the March meeting could be utilized for some of this history and giving space for the community engagement working group to seize that opportunity if we're going to have oral presentations from community activists about legacy work that has happened in the lane of reparations and justice work, how that gets absorbed into the project that the community engagement group is working on, so that we're still moving according. I would like that working group to like own that process.
Makes sense.
And so I would give them either, well, since February spoken for, I would give them like March or a different meeting beyond March to think about that. But I think it's a great idea. And I think we've heard from a lot of those folks already who have come to meetings. And it could be a really strong way to engage them. But I also want to make sure that we capture those stories with the the videography work and the sort of like those things, so that they feed into the final project with with just like, I want it to be solid so that we can use it toward the launch of the report.
Right.
Go ahead, Vernon.
I think it's a good idea in doing that, and be very intentional about the persons that are presenting, the organizations that are presenting, individuals that are presenting. While you all were talking, I've reached out to a couple of those groups already. I wanted to know who would be the contact in that way, because it's a it's a really small ecosystem here locally that's working on this. But how do you want to go about them contacting the commission?
Well,
No, they just have my information for now, but
yeah, Delisha is over the community engagement working group.
okay.
So I don't want to sign her up and she's not here. So, but she is. So maybe between her and William, could you be on those emails too?
Yeah, I can be a secondary contact.
Yeah, Delisha would be the obvious first contact.
Yeah. So that working group is Gwen, William, and Delisha. And we got to get you on one of the working groups.
And Reverend
Anthony, thank you. Sorry, Reverend Anthony.
I need the schedule.
Got you. Okay, I can email you that after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So for January, what we are clear on is that we're going to give a presentation on the internal structure of the commission, including the working groups, their mandates, their projects, and then more detail about the sort of what the report working group has been working on as far as the shape of the report. And the report working group will meet between now and the 31st to really like lay in that presentation. And in February 28th, we'll have Mayor Jones and Neil Richardson. And March 27th, we will either have, or we may have both, but Colin Gordon, will reach out to him to see if he's available March 27th. And the community engagement working group is going to work on this sort of local reparations history through the voices of those who have been in that work locally. Does that sound like a good recounting of what we discussed?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The Colin Gordon was the 27th.
March 27th, yeah.
Okay, I had it right. Thank you.
Has anyone been in touch with him directly around potential dates? I can reach out to him if not, but I don't know if anyone has an ongoing
I've been talking
conversation
to
with him.
Colin,
Okay, cool.
but I'll include you in because you know him as well, I'm assuming.
Just a little bit, not
Okay.
very well, but I could easily
I'll
reach
include
out,
you
but
in the
I'm happy to
correspondence.
defer. Sure.
Same. I know him a little bit, so happy to be there too. Okay, and then as far as reaching out to with the date to Mayor Jones, Vernon, can you do that as well, just to confirm with Emily or her team to hold February 28th?
Yep, 6 to 8, right?
Yeah,
Consider it done.
amazing. Amazing. Look at this. It's 7:02 and we've gotten so much accomplished. The last thing on my agenda, so we've gotten through dates, time, locations, and invited speakers, so that's great. I will have Mihaela, if you can get the dates over to the team at Action so that we can get a graphic to the commission members for the January 31st. We can at least put up an event, hold the event time while we figure out location. I just want to make sure that we're amplifying that. Thank you. And then as far as working group updates go, so just wanted to check in. I know that the community engagement group is not super present on this call except for you, William. Do you all have a standing meeting time?
So it was today at 9 this morning. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make that meeting due to work, but
And is that every Wednesday at that time?
uh monthly, looks like.
It's once a month.
Yep. Let me double check though. No, it's the second Wednesday. No, it's bi-monthly. It's the second and the last Wednesday of each month.
At 9 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. And then the report working group, we are scheduled to meet on Wednesday, the non, every other Wednesday. We meet every Wednesday essentially, but the other 2 Wednesdays of the month at 6:30. Does that still work for you, David and Dr. Ross?
Yes, I don't have it on my calendars, but I knew we had the discussion. Yes, that still works.
Okay. Mihaela, can you update
Um,
that calendar invite? Go ahead, David.
So genuinely, that still works for me in a general thing. Unfortunately, next Wednesday I have something that I can't move. But that's like a one-time
Same.
conflict, and otherwise the schedule is good.
Same. Wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong month. It's January. Nope, that's true. Same. Next Wednesday, I also can't do it. But so the 24th though at 6:30, could we meet to prepare for the 31st?
No, I told you I'll be I'll be in Vermont on the 24th
Of January?
of January.
It'll be okay. Okay.
So, no, there's no way I could do that.
Okay. So maybe offline,
Um,
the 3 of us can find a different time to meet
Yeah,
this month to prepare for the 31st.
yeah, I come back in town on the 25th, that Thursday. I'll be back by 6 p.m. or that Friday.
You
I'll
was like,
be,
thanks, William. It was like Friday. Um,
days
20
don't matter to me. I'll,
I know.
Friday night, Sunday morning, all the same.
The 25th at 7, I can do that.
Okay.
That's good with me too.
Okay, so January 25th at 7 p.m., we'll have a report working group meeting with eyes focused on and I'll do some pre-work based on our notes to get us ready for the 31st. Mahala, can you put a calendar invite for Dr. Ross, David, and I for the 25th at 7? And then we'll move back to maybe starting in February, we'll move back to Wednesdays
Mm-hmm.
at 6:30. Those 2 Wednesdays that we are not meeting as a commission. Great. Okay, well, one Wednesday, the 14th is a Wednesday. Well, we have a planning meeting on Valentine's Day. I just want to say that now for all the lovers in the house. It's not me. I can read. But if we need to pull that down, we should probably just acknowledge that we're going to pull that down if need be.
Don't listen to me. I'm a workaholic. So
Me too. That's why I said it's the day after my birthday, but we're not meeting on my birthday, so it's okay.
I let some of the people who have,
I
just
already messed up and ended up I needed to be out of town that day, so I probably would miss that meeting, but not because I'm I'm
a
doing
lover.
valued Valentine's things. Yeah, I know. Unfortunately,
I got it. So we'll keep it on the calendar and we'll see who shows up as a planning meeting. But really, we have February pretty planned. So since Mayor Jones is coming, so if we don't end up having it, we won't be too bad off. Okay. So we have the working group meeting on the 25th at 7 p.m., the report working group meeting on the 25th, and then resuming every other Wednesday at 6:30 in February for the report. And then the community engagement working group is the second and fourth Wednesday at 9 a.m. So Kim, you either get, early morning Wednesday or a evening Wednesday, but we all meet on Wednesdays. Reparations Wednesdays in 2024. It's like Bible study. So just let me know. I'll send you this in an email, but then just let me know which working group you want to join. Any other news that we need to address in this meeting tonight?
I would just like to let the commission know, due to work, I will not be at the January meeting,
What?
but I will be, I have to go out of town, but I will be amplifying with everyone once that the flyer comes out. So
And we will get that. We will get that as soon as we have a location. But we'll release one with just the date, and then one with the location, so that people can save the date. Vernon?
There will be a new email for the Reparations Commission. I will be watching it and working with our team to go through it, but just a place where the public and others can send their thoughts, feedback outside of when we have streaming meetings. I know sometimes on YouTube they can leave comments there. Some people have given me written comments directly when we're at the meetings, but this is just another way, because right now it's overpopulating my email. So because people have been emailing me directly, which is fine, but I think this way it will give us a more efficient way to address community concerns and I would say stakeholders that are and want to be involved in this process, but wanted to let both the public know and the commission know as well.
Great. Great. Okay, any other announcements? Or any other business?
Move adjournment.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. Can we get a second? I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, everybody second. All right. Thank you all so much for making time on this Wednesday again. Have Happy New Year. Hope January is going well for you. Stay warm, and we will see you all on the 31st.
Ready? See you all.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks all.